Michelle Thackeray, CEO of Ama-KonekXin. We're all about connecting your brands with eKasi. We're all suffering from the load shedding fatigue, but more importantly, the frustration. We don't know when we switched on, we don't know when we switched off. It changes from day to day, and it really is a hindrance in terms of how do we actually plan our day around this load shedding schedule. Us in the sort of suburbs environment, we find it a lot easier to adapt. Most of us have got generators, backup power, we've turned to solar, and in instances we've got inverters. But I don't think we really realize how difficult it is for the Kasi to survive the challenges that they deal with on a day-to-day basis around load shedding. How does it impact the trader and the consumer? And this is what we're going to try and unpack in this little short snippet.
I always have to change schedules in a way. Like now, you see right now, the power just got back at 8 o'clock and it's going, I think, load shedding is going to strike at 2 o'clock, which means I've got to make sure that I have to do all the things that need power before 2 o'clock, which is kind of hard in a way, because if you see today, the grass that I've just cut, it's too long, so it means it takes long to cut it into a uniform size. I've got to make sure that, the schedule itself, I've got to make sure that I find a way to work around it. But it really makes it hard. It's a different thing when there's power the whole day,
It affects me a lot of time, and they waste a lot of time to sit, and then you stand. It's like yesterday, I stay here for 4 hours, that doesn't do nothing. And the end, 4:30 I have to go home, the job is not done. See, today I'm back here again to load shedding. The job is not done yet. I must finish up the job. And the food also there where I'm staying. If I cook the food, I leave a little bit back. If I go back tonight, the food is brought already. You're losing a lot of customers. If the job doesn't go anywhere, the customers are running away. If you're supposed to do the job today, you stay here the whole day, even got the generator there. The customers, they chase you away, but they haven't got generator to work. I call the guys, I got generator. Me, I have to go stay at home. Doesn't eat nothing.
In the sort of Spaza environment, you've got to understand that we're talking about foreign nationals who are essentially renting a space from our South African counterparts. South African landlords are now being pressurized by the foreign nationals who essentially own this environment to ensure that there's some form of sustainable ongoing electricity. And what we're finding more and more is that the foreign nationals are not going to pay or extend their contracts, their rental contracts with the guys in the Kasi until there's some form of load shedding solution that is being put in place. We're finding a lot of solar powers going out there strapped into an inverter, which then allows the Spaza owners to keep their lights on an ongoing basis. The downside of this, however, is that it's affecting the consumer, because ultimately the rental prices are going up, and this has got to go somewhere. This cost has got to be subtracted somewhere. So what we're finding is that the consumer is actually ultimately bearing the brunt of this increase in the rental. And there has been, like there has been in the formal environment, and I think we can talk Pick and Pay, I understand recently that they're spending 60 million rand a month just on diesel. And that is obviously going to affect their end consumer's price point. We're also finding the checkers are increasing their rates 9% on all goods. The same applies in the Kasi. And ultimately, the consumer is the person who is the hardest hit. By trying to keep the lights on, there's a cost associated up the line. That cost then gets passed down the line.
The price for food, everything, diesel, petrol, everything you have to eat, you have to spend more money with load shedding, and everything is higher.
We end up going to buy food that we can buy today and eat today, so that it can be finished, so that you don't have to keep it in the fridge anymore. So it means I don't buy a lot of food to keep in the fridge. I buy the food to eat now, then tomorrow is another day. But buying that way is very expensive. It's very expensive, because surely I will have to spend maybe more than 50 rand a day, which is quite a lot. But if I was buying if I was buying the food in bulk and keeping it, it was much easier. Because if I'm going to buy maybe 5 kg of maybe chicken dry pack and stuff, which is going to cost me maybe around 150 to 160. I end up buying some chicken that's going maybe for 40 rand a day.
The MIDI wholesale environment is a different environment entirely. They're moving high volumes, anything over 100 to 150,000 rand a day in this kind of environment. So they do have the means to a far more sustainable solution. And as you'll see in one of the clips, we've actually got one of the biggest generators that I've seen in the Kasi environment. And he's able to keep refrigeration going on an ongoing basis and therefore maintain the integrity of the cold chain. But this isn't always the case. Ultimately, again, this cost does get passed down to the consumer, or in this case, the trader.
The effect is there's a lot of things because of a day for 3 times of the electricity. So the loadshedding affect us as a business.
How much fuel do you have to put into that generator every day?
This will not fill, but 20 liters are put.
20 liters a day.
A day, yeah.
Do you have to now increase your price because of this?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because we pay them, we buy from the petrol. We have to increase the pricing also because it's costing us. Yes, also they affect it because they don't have also the head shop is the bus shop. They don't have electricity, so it also they affect it. We're not buying like before. Yeah.
Because they can't refrigerate when they get to this.
They don't afford for the generators. Yes.
Is this now connected in here and it goes up the top there to solar?
Yes, for light.
For the lights, okay? And it keeps your lights on and it runs your CCTV camera?
Yes, like that.
Okay, but not the fridges?
Not fridge.
Okay.
Only for light.
And if you don't have the lights, then what happens?
You know, how you ask also that.
Your Kasi course outlets are probably the hardest hit in this environment because they rely on your deep fryers, which are obviously linked to your direct electricity supply, as well as the fridges, which ensure that your Pamela cheese slices and the likes of your polonies, etc., are kept refrigerated to ensure that they don't spoil. As a result of this, they are still open, but they're not able to offer the full menu that they would normally offer. So what they're doing, let's say for argument, they had 35 quarter options from a Toyota to a Suzuki to whatever their offering is. They can now only offer 1 or 2 options, and it's your very basic quarter. So they're really not having the same turnover that they would normally have. This is ultimately affecting their day-to-day trading.
Now on and on, when they said they were using gas, so I would see a pot at the house, and I'm thinking they throw the chips right inside the pot, and then what do you cut off from one side? So you're going with the same concept, just of saying, just what do you call this guy? Set. That. And then you put it.
One thing that we've realized with regards to the load shedding and how it's affecting the informal trade, most of the informal traders and your tabletops, ladies that are selling fresh produce, they're not banked. Even if they're banked, it's on a personal account, and with us not being able to draw money when there's load shedding, it hinders their sales as well. We tried going to a couple of spazarets, and out of the 10 that we went to, only 2 had POS system that you could pay using your card, but most of them, they normally take cash. This could be a huge benefit for the banking sector. In a way, if they could develop an app or something that would work with payments, especially with tabletops, spazas and spazarets. Another issue that we've seen with regards to the informal trades, but especially with confectionery. Most of the confectionery outlets, which is your bakeries, that came up in 2019 and 2020, they're closing down because of load shedding. That's the biggest thing. Because their biggest margins, they make them in the morning. And if you've got load shedding for 4 hours in the morning, that rushes out already. And these outlets are opting to close down instead of taking the loss.
So marketers, where does this leave you? How do you partner with Ikasi to keep the lights on? I think it's important to understand that reciprocal marketing is really the way to go. Yes, there's always a commercial entity in marketing, but try and find what your consumers' pain points are and try and assist, partner with your trader, partner with your consumer, because ultimately that's where you're going to get brand loyalty. there are a number of options. We can go with solar panels, we can go with generators, which I know a lot of marketers have already put in place, but take it one step further. Keep the lights on at night as well. Why not actually put your brand up out in neon lights, which is linked to the solar power, which keeps the lights on at night. It keeps that area protected as well because there's light. It's not going into darkness. But at the same time, it actually plugs in and allows that outlet to keep their lights on, to keep training and to sustain their business. Kasi consumers and traders are survivors. They are also entrepreneurs. They will always make a plan. Be part of that plan.